Okay guys, today's story time. Hey YouTube, it's your boy Mizuki back with another video, and in today's video we'll be discussing a new emerging feature of Peroxide, the lore text. Yes guys, Peroxide has been cooking up a lore of their own, and it's evident in the books and scriptures they've posted in the last 3 days, as well as the NPCs who you can have a full-fledged dialogue with in various worlds, and that's what I'll be discussing in today's video. Note that before making this video, as normal, I've discussed this with the active members, as well as the mods and the content creators such as myself. I also got access to the text due to the Trello, so I know what's up in this new lore. But anyways, without holding anyone's time, let's hop right into the video. Now anyways, these books aren't necessarily individual stories. In the end, they all tie together into this one big plot, so make sure to sit back, focus, because this is going to be a lot of stuff. Starting with the first book. Known as the Book of Fullbringers, in this book it seems to me like a scientist of some sort has figured out that there are superhumans out there who had contact with hollows and now possess enormous power. He says to have made contact with one, and the one who he made contact with had the ability of the watch, which made the power, which had the power to manipulate his environment. This character in the book seems to have greater powers than the average player, so he overpowered the Fullbringer, and before you got to ask questions, the Fullbringer did dip, leaving everything off on the fact that they do exist. So this story gives me a couple good theories. One is that the Fullbringer, or the first Fullbringer ability, will probably be a watch of some kind, and like a time environment manipulating ability. And two, Fullbringers are obviously coming out, like I mentioned in my previous video, but this isn't the only book. Now the next book I read is one I didn't quite get. It was called the Book of Sins, but what I did understand is that in the book, the narrator talks about sinners and how Mundo could have been their old HQ due to all the ruins surrounding the map, which is a good theory. It also mentions how he finally found the Imperial Hogyoku. Later, he found the masked Shinigami he was looking for. He forced the crystal into his chest. Then his lab and works were destroyed, and the Shinigami disappeared. Tragic and strange. And now the last of the 3 books was the Book of Power. And it dove deeper into this whole idea of the masked Shinigami with the Impure Hogyoku. In the book, it talks about the perspective of a Shinigami who was told to let his higher-ups know if he found any artifact with time abnormality abilities, though it was rumored that most hide it for themselves. Anyways, later that night, he spotted a group of, keyword, masked Shinigami in the forest, like the one from the Book of Sins, who were talking about finding beings of great raw power and destroying them. The masked Shinigamis are probably tied to the one with the Hogyoku in his chest, and are trying to find and destroy Fullbringers with the time ability. I wonder why. Now, next part of the lore was the old Arrancar that was spotted in Mundo. It's not a book. But anyways, he talked about a savior of some sort, and his savior was sent out to protect his fellow Ronkars from intruders. The savior broke some sort of device before being killed. I'm assuming this device was the Impure Hogyoku, because if you watched the anime or the original show, the way very powerful Ronkars and weapons were developed was through the usage of the Impure Hogyoku. I'd assume it was discovered in their possession, and the savior didn't want the masked Shinigami and or Fullbringers to have possession of it, so he destroyed the object and allowed the Arrancars to escape. That's basically the summary of the first dialogue. Now the next dialogue is held with the character known as Ranbura. Now Ranbura appears to be insane, as in a dialogue it says he lost his mind. Ranbura talks about Shinigami with a hollow masks and how they love to kill. Then he rambles on about a joke where he talks about a Shinigami with a hole in his chest, then asks the reader if he's curious in a sarcastic way. He later guides the reader to look for more information on Mundo as he cackles, which actually brings us to our last and final part of the lore, and someone who's actually understandable, like actually isn't insane. Now the process of talking to this final NPC is very time consuming, as it asks you to, when you talk to him as an Arrancar, I'm just reading this, these are the instructions. When you talk to him as an Arrancar, he will give you the quest to get a resurrection weapon. The quest is as follows: first talk to Monolith, some sort of tower. After getting power from it, you need to quickly descend down to the Menos Forest through some sort of chasm before all the power fades from you. that's when you will get a weapon in your resurrection form. But that's not really part of the dialogue. Now, anyways, with that out of the way, the summary of our dialogue was interesting. So now the summary was that a long time ago, there was something called the Hunt. The Soul Society decided to eliminate Hueco Mundo. I just realized I wasn't even holding my mic. Of its strongest hollows to prevent the growth of Hueco Mundo in the war. The Soul Society slayed hundreds of Vastalordes and hunted down a lot of Hollow Princes who were known to have the ability to easily take on 3 captains. Ooh. The Hollow King approved the hunt and allowed the Soul Society to kill the Hollows. Weird. Because the king knew his own kind was savage and he appreciated the fighting. So basically the Reaper King was intimidated since the Hollows have just awakened. Well, the Reaper King, not the Hollow King. The Reaper King is the king of Soul Society. He was intimidated since the Hollows have just awakened their Segundas, and a powerful character known as Hueco Oscarus was on their side. So wielding his legendary Bankai, with one slash he destroyed everything, like everything. Even to this day, Hueco Mundo is still hunted by the attack, and the aftermath was pretty bad. Probably explains the ruins, and supposedly the only 2 people that survived were Hueco Oscarus and apparently a random character who opened up his Garganta in time. That's kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. So later the Reaper King was banished, or he banished himself, because that attack was so vicious, even for himself. And yeah, that's the end of the current lore. But honestly, reading and digging into all this, I learned a lot, and that the Peroxide lore team sure knows how to write a nice hook. I personally see Peroxide being like the public version of Birdcage, with a future and very sophisticated lore. Peroxide is going to be so packed in the coming years, or the coming weeks, if not years. I can't wait. But aside from that, I hope this story time taught y'all some cool new stuff. And let's cross our fingers and wait for some dope updates to drop in the coming weeks. Aside from that, like, sub, all the proper things, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.